Well, hopefully it won't be too much longer before we're out doing that again. But until then, let's take a minute and think about early season bass. Where are we going to go? What are we going to throw? Stick with me. So where are we going to go for those early season bass? If there's a time of the year where water temperature is the most important factor, it's right now, early season. 2-3 degrees water temperature alone can make a big difference for the bass. So we're going to look for coves on the north side of the lake. You get on the north side, they're going to get a lot more sunshine with the angle of the sun the way it is this time of year. And when those fronts come through with those cold north winds, the North Shore is a little bit better protected from that. The water may stay just a little bit warmer. So some nice shallow water, North Cove, warms up the fastest. That's going to bring those bass up in there, looking for forage fish, crawdads, stuff like that. All that stuff is cold-blooded, so all of that stuff is affected by water temperature. Riprap. Now, whether it's rocks, broken up concrete, whatever you have that forms riprap along the shores, those again will always be great places for early season bass. You got the crawdads that like to hide down in there, but most importantly, that rocks or that broken up concrete, whatever it is, gets a lot of sun on it, it warms it up, and it warms up the water along with it. And a lot of times it'll hold the warmth of the water just a little bit because that concrete and rocks absorb the heat, it lasts a little longer. Put some rocky riprap on the north side and you're even better. Now you got gold. Creek channels. Now around here we don't have that, a lot of that. Our small lakes have maybe a creek coming in here or there. We have a lot of just sand pits or just holes in the ground of water. But if you're on the big reservoirs and you have a lot of arms of the creek channels, those channels are going to be a good place to look because those bass are heading up into those channels early in the year, getting ready to spawn. But another factor is you have incoming water. And sometimes that incoming water is going to be warmer than the water that's in the lake. So again, we're thinking about temperature. Now if you don't have a lot of channels, maybe rainwater. You get those early spring rains, you get some warm rains, that water's going into the lake, it's warmer. The fish will look for areas like that. So North Shores, rocky riprap, creek channels, any place where water coming in, that's something that could affect the water and make it just a little bit warmer. And again, remember, 2 or 3 degrees is sometimes all it takes to make a difference for the bass. Now if we know where to go, then it's what are we going to use? Early in the spring, water temperatures upper 30s, low 40s, working our way up towards 50. I'm always going to use a jerkbait. A jerkbait will always work out real well in that cold water. I guess I don't like to delay them. Some guys can sit there and hold those things 15, 20 seconds between jerks. I have a harder time doing that. Maybe I'm just an impatient person and can't sit that long. But work it slow, put some jerks to it. Don't get real erratic. Let's remember the bait fish are cold-blooded just like the bass. So the bait fish aren't really moving real erratic and stuff when that water temperature's that cold either. So I give it a few jerks and a few twitches, but I don't get carried away with it. For me, early in the spring, also the lipless crankbait, and I love red. Now, I can't say I've ever seen a red crawdad here in Nebraska, but red always seems to work, and I don't think it really matters what part of the country. A red lipless always works real well early in the spring. So you're going to see me throw a lot of lipless. You'll see me throw red whenever I can. And to go along with that, I'll still use a square bill, and a lot of times I'll do the square bill in a red also. That rocky riprap that we talked about, a beautiful place to take this square bill, bounce this thing along those rocks when you can. And I'll tell you, I'll run the lipless along those rocky riprap areas too. It's a little riskier sometimes because this is sinking where this is floating. Sometimes you can get this hung up, that square bill gets hung up in a rock, you can let it go and it'll float itself free. That's not going to happen here. But I'll tell you, the rewards of that lipless or that square bill along that rocky riprap, for me, I'm going to take my chances, and I'm probably going to throw this, and I'm going to throw this around those rocks. Another thing I like to throw, and can do it around the rocks or around tree stumps, vegetation, or timber, stuff like that, is a jig. A jig is a jig is good year round. But early in the spring when the water's cold, you can drag this thing, hop it slow across the bottom, put it around those tree stumps, stuff like that, where those bass are gonna hang out, and that'll help there. And speaking about tree stumps and when you got your trees in the water or dead timber, go to a lake in the winter when there's ice on the lake and take note around the trees, the ice is thinner or there isn't much. Why? The tree is absorbing heat from the sun and it's heating up the water. You'll always find around those trees the ice is thinner close by. If the ice is thinner, guess what? Water temperature is a little warmer. So fish those stumps, fish those trees, because the water right around them is going to be a little warmer than it is out 10, 15 feet away. The jig will work really well there. And the last thing I love to use early in the spring is a chatterbait. Now maybe when the water temp's still in the 30s, the chatterbait's so-so, but start getting me up in the 40s, mid 40s, getting up close to 50. I love to use a chatterbait. Mainly reason is I can run this really slow roll this if I need to, but at the same time I'm getting enough action out of that blade. I'll get some vibration, I'll get some action, I can fish it slow, but I can still cover water. I can cover water a lot faster with a chatterbait than I can with a jig. So I like to use that chatterbait some because you need to cover some water and figure out what those fish are. Almost works the same way in the square bill. Square bill, you can work it kind of slow, but you cover water, you find some fish. You're looking for a search bait here, you're trying to find where they're at. The chatterbait has always worked well for me early in the spring too. Head for the North Shore. If anything else, look for warmer water. This time of year, that's the key. Find that warm water, North Shore, Rocky Riprap, where water's coming in. Wherever you can find a little bit warmer water, that's the place you're going to want to hit.